Hey everybody, my name is Gabriel Bowman, and today I have another video for you guys. The video I have planned to talk about today, I feel like is not only very special, but very sacred. And I mean that quite literally because it's all about being bored, which I think could be an iffy topic. I mean, there's a lot of negative things about being bored, but also a lot of very positive things that could change the whole entire course of your entire life, just within a just within a couple of minutes. And I'm going to start by addressing that negative side because I think that's also very important. Of course, the negative side is, and you've all heard the quote, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Of course, if you are bored, if you are doing nothing, the devil has a lot more of an opportunity to come into play, kind of toil with your life and place things in front of you like temptations. And when that comes, that leads to so many other negative things. On the other hand, I think we would be capable of overcoming temptations a lot easier if we had more time doing nothing. If we had enough practice trying to overcome. That's not the point of the video. I'm going to focus fully on the positive sides about being bored, right? But the reason I made this video is because recently I found that I have a lot more time on my hands now since I have quit all of my social media. I have been off of social media for over a month now, probably a month and a half, without any social media whatsoever. Actually, we're coming up on 2 months. Without social media, immediately, like the first week, you're kind of like, but within the first couple of days of me being without social media, I noticed that life is a little bit differently. The way I perceive things, the way I do things, my tolerance for certain activities, for certain things, right? I feel like even the level of temptation I receive on a day-to-day basis, which is normal for everybody, I receive, and I'm not even joking, like this is a very real thing. And it almost sounds weird for me to say this, but I receive little to none as far as temptation goes. Of course, there's like the basic things like, oh, maybe I want to, and maybe I'm unkind to someone, right? Or I don't know. There's those little things, right? But as far as everything else goes, I'm not very tempted. I'm not. It's easier to control my mind because I have very little bombarding it at a time. But for you guys might find within the first little bit after you quit social media, suddenly you have all of this time because I mean before you were spending most of your day probably on social media and on YouTube and things like that. But if you have quit social media or if you're planning on it, expect that, right? There's going to be all this time just empty. And what you'll end up using that for is likely going to be Netflix or YouTube because you're lazy, and that's not a problem, right? There's no issue with watching a movie or a YouTube video every once in a while, but you should also limit yourself. That was my biggest weakness was YouTube. It just came up and suddenly now it's like all I do is I was watching YouTube for a lot of that time when I first quit social media. In a little bit here, I'll be quitting YouTube as well. Still be making the videos, but I'm not gonna have the YouTube app on my phone. I'm gonna just have it on my laptop, so it's more for work purposes. If I want to study or if I feel like I want some entertainment, things like that. But now that you have all this free time, you're bored, and being bored isn't necessarily a bad thing. I personally prefer being bored over being overstimulated by meaningless things. Being bored gives you a greater sense of availability for spiritual connection. It also gives you a greater sense or a greater capability of receiving inspiration for your next steps. Being bored has given me ideas. I mean, like with the time that I have just sitting there thinking, I receive ideas in ways that I never have before. Suddenly it's like I have goals that I'm hyper focused on because there's nothing else bombarding my mind. At the same time, I've gotten really good at getting to know myself. And a lot of people probably experienced this during COVID because there was so little to do. You really got to know yourself very, very well. And it's the same exact thing in this situation where because I had all this time, I started to recognize things about myself that I never did before. And maybe that's where that tolerance for overcoming temptation came in, was because I was able to connect with myself and generate and cultivate a life that was meaningful, full of purpose, and that inspired me to push further every single day. There's really not much more to say about the importance in that, except for that this is maybe just a continuation of why you should quit social media. Because if you quit social media, you're going to have all this time truly become a greater version of yourself. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. I feel a little bit iffy about this video. I'm not really sure I completely like it. So please leave a like and comment, if there's what you would like to see next. Everything I did say here is true, needless to say, but I hope you're able to find something of value to it and that you feel inspired to maybe make some changes in your life so that you can accumulate more and more time. And I will see you guys in the next video.